If you're a parent, you know this is one of the toughest decisions you have to make these days. It causes a ton of anxiety and arguments. We're talking, of course, about the smartphone. For years, it felt like a total gray area. But now, a clear scientific picture is finally starting to emerge. And honestly, it's changing everything.
So that's the big question, right? When is the right age? It's something that keeps a lot of us up at night. Today, we're going to dig into some brand new science that's finally giving us some real solid answers.
For the longest time, all we really had were opinions, anecdotes from other parents, a few studies here and there that seemed to contradict each other. But that period of just not knowing, it's coming to an end. A huge wave of new, large-scale research is giving us a much, much clearer picture. In fact, a lot of researchers are now saying the debate is basically over. We're talking about massive, long-term projects, like the huge ABCD study from the National Institutes of Health. Get this, they're tracking the brain development of almost 12,000 kids for over a decade. And studies like that, they're all starting to point in the exact same direction.
And what's so wild about this is how new it all is. This isn't old information we're just rehashing. We're talking about a massive shift in our understanding that's really just happened in the last few months. This is literally the cutting edge of what we know right now.
Okay, so let's get into the details. What are we actually talking about here? Let's start with the real fundamentals of a kid's well-being, their body, their sleep, and their mind. Because this new data lets us put some actual numbers on these risks for the first time. First up, sleep. And this number is a big one. Researchers found that kids who got a phone at age 12 had a 60%, that's 60, higher risk of poor sleep compared to kids who just waited one more year until they were 13. Just think about that. A single year makes that huge of a difference. And it doesn't stop there. That same study, it found a 40% higher risk of obesity for the same age group, kids who got a phone at 12 instead of 13. So you start to see this pattern emerging where early access is tied to these really tangible physical health problems. And then, of course, there's mental health. The data points to a 31% greater risk of depression for kids who had their own smartphone by the time they were 12. So when you put it all together, you're seeing these clear lines connecting early phone access to sleep, physical health, and mental well-being. It's a powerful trio.
But the story doesn't even end there. Because beyond their immediate health, there's this growing concern about what all this screen time is actually doing to a kid's developing brain, specifically their ability to focus and to learn new things.
You've probably heard this term floating around online, brain rot. Now, it's not some official medical diagnosis, but it really nails a very real fear that this endless fire hose of super short, low-quality content is actually rewiring our brains for constant distraction. It's all built for these quick, easy hits of dopamine, which can make it way harder to do things that require deep, sustained focus.
And this chart just lays it out perfectly. On one side, you have the endless scrolling, the viral dances, you know the stuff. On the other side, you have activities that actually build your brain up, like learning an instrument, reading a book, or solving a tough problem. The science is suggesting that a brain that gets used to the easy, constant rewards over here is going to find the deep, hard work over here a lot more difficult and maybe even boring. And you can actually measure this effect. A study from UC San Francisco found something pretty shocking. It showed that just 1 hour, only 1 hour, of social media a day was linked to worse cognitive performance over time. A researcher put it this way. Think of it like the difference between a student getting an A and that same exact student getting a B. That's a huge drop.
And this isn't just numbers on a page. This is Dr. Run Barzilay. He's one of the lead researchers on one of these big studies. And after he saw his own data, he made a personal choice. He's not giving his 9-year-old son a smartphone yet. He literally told him, this is to keep you healthy. And he's really clear that this isn't about blaming parents for past decisions. It's about, we didn't know then, but now we do.
Because the evidence has gotten so strong, this whole conversation is getting bigger than just what one family decides to do. It's scaling up. We're now hearing politicians and public health officials talk about this as a genuine public health crisis. And it's not just talk. We're seeing serious action. Just look at Australia. They recently became the first country in the world to completely ban social media for any kid under 16. That's a huge step, and it shows you just how seriously governments are starting to take this new evidence. Okay, so governments are starting to move, which is one thing. But what does all of this mean for you, right now, at home? What can you actually do about it in your own family?
Well, the good news is the experts aren't just dropping these bombshells and walking away. They're also offering some really practical, science-backed advice for how we can all build some healthier habits around these devices.
So let's quickly run through these 4 big ideas. First, and this is a tough one, model the behavior you want to see. Kids are sponges. They see everything, especially how you use your phone at night. Second, talk about it early and often. Make it an ongoing conversation, not one big reactive argument. Third, don't go for an all-out ban. Research shows that just cutting back screen time by an hour a day is way more effective. And finally, number 4, change the environment. Because willpower is not enough. Deleting the really addictive apps and making kids use a web browser instead can make a world of difference. And that really brings us to this powerful final idea from Dr. Nidhi Gupta. Because let's be honest, this isn't really just about our kids anymore. The struggles we see them having with their screens, they're often just a reflection of our own.
So maybe that's the real takeaway here. In trying to solve this problem for our kids, we kind of have to look in the mirror. It might be our best chance to finally ask what a healthy relationship with technology looks like, not just for them, but for all of us.